we live our entire lives on our phone right now. We do our banking, our healthcare, our love lives, and we have built secure technology that we're giving away for free. This is totally philanthropic, that enables people to vote securely on their phones.
Yeah.
And my hope is that by making it a lot easier, we can get a lot more people to do it.
We've been talking a lot about the state of American democracy. We've been talking, as some people see it, of a threat to American democracy. Well, our next guest is someone who shares worries, fears about the future of American democracy, and he's come up with a particular plan, which we'll certainly cover with our guest, for trying to help the problem. His answer involves the use of mobile phones, although clearly the argument and the conversation goes rather beyond that. We will get the thoughts now of Brad Tusk, who was a campaign manager for Michael Bloomberg, who was communications director for Chuck Schumer, and is author of Vote with Your Phone, Why Mobile Voting is Our Final Shot at Saving Democracy. Welcome to you, Brad.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me on the programme. I want to come, obviously, to your thoughts on new ways to vote and why you think that's so important. But tell me, first of all, do you believe that democracy in the United States is in danger?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anyone in their right mind would answer otherwise. It is a world where the rule of law now seems to be a suggestion or a norm, but not actually something that we any longer follow. And even if you take this out of the world of Trump, it was in danger independent of him. He makes it much worse, obviously. But when we live in a world where so few people participate in most elections and vote in most elections, then ultimately we've got a democracy that's just not representative of the American people.
Right. So if we then step away just for a moment then from the sort of the red versus blue political battle raging in your country now, your concern is with engaging people in democracy, and you have a plan for that. Tell me more.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, fundamentally, I would argue that you can get any group of Americans together, except for the people at the extremes, and come up with a solution that most people would find reasonable on almost any issue: guns, immigration, education, healthcare, climate, whatever it is. But the problem is in the US, most people are elected in the primary election, not the general election, because we have this very corrupt practice known as gerrymandering. And primary turnout is very low, typically about 10 to 15%. And those voters tend to be the most extreme. So the far right or the far left or special interests who can move money and votes in low turnout elections. And as a result, those small groups dictate not only who wins office, but then what those elected officials do when they're in office. And that gets us either the chaos and dysfunction of Washington, D.C., or totally one-sided governments, whether it's the state of Texas on the right or the city of San Francisco on the left. And as a result, we have a government that people feel really bad about, have very little confidence in, and can't get anything done. And the real shame is, it's not that the American people are bitterly divided. It's just that the people who actually show up to vote in primaries are, and they're the only ones who are represented.
Okay, so American politics is far too dominated by factions, by polar opposites, by money and special interests. What's your answer to that?
My answer is to meet the people where they are, which is, I've worked in and around politics now for almost 35 years. And what I've learned is pretty much every politician makes every decision solely based on the next election and nothing else. And there are exceptions. Mike Bloomberg was one in my career, but by and large, that's how they are. And so in a world of 10% primary turnout, they're only going to cater to the extremes because that's what they need to get reelected. If it's 35, 40, 50% turnout, all of a sudden, by definition, things move to the middle simply because a lot more people are voting. And so in order to get people to start participating in primary elections for city council, state senate, local government, state government, even Congress,
Right.
we've got to make voting a lot easier because we know that people are not going to be late for work on a Tuesday or not take their kids to school to vote in these elections. But we live our entire lives on our phone right now. We do our banking, our healthcare, our love lives. And we have built secure technology that we're giving away for free. This is totally philanthropic, that enables people to vote securely on their phones.
Yeah.
And my hope is that by making it a lot easier, we can get a lot more people to do it.
Okay, it's a really interesting point of view. I mean, when it comes to the general election, let's say when it comes to a presidential election, turnouts in American elections are not too bad, are they? I can
That is
recall.
so we have one election in America
Yeah,
every 4 years that has good turnout. That's the presidential, and it's
right.
about
But your
66.
worry is that when it comes to choosing candidates, not just the presidential candidates, but local candidates, it's left to a minority, a sliver of the
Right. I
of the
mean,
voter. And you say you
oftentimes,
want to engage those, and you've got a way of doing that using the mobile phone. You also need people to be engaged, to be interested, to be motivated too, of course.
yeah, yeah. I mean, right now, I speak about this at college campuses all over the country. And when you ask young people, do you have any faith in your government? Do you have any reason for optimism or hope? The answer is no across the board, sometimes unanimously, because all they see is a world where people stand in the corners and point fingers and scream and demonize each other, and nothing gets done. And so trust and faith in government just keeps declining. And if we want a world where we have a government that people can believe in, that can solve problems, that can attract talented people into working in government. We've got to make that government vastly more functional. And I don't think we can make politicians different people, right? So if we could make them willing to sacrifice their well-being and their political career for the greater good, sure, but they're not. And I think that's just the nature of politicians, and it's
Right.
probably been true throughout history.
Yeah.
So you can't change them, but if you change their underlying political incentives, that would change the choices they make and the way they behave. So
Okay.
when
Last.
the
So last question. I mean,
yeah,
if
please.
many more people are going to be voting using mobile phones, it does require trust in comms networks and in tech companies. Is that trust
Yes.
there?
Yeah, well, so it doesn't luckily require trust in tech companies because we didn't sort of outsource this to Google or Amazon or anyone like that. We built it ourselves, and then it's being posted to GitHub, which is the repository of open source code, and then will be free to any government in the world to use however they see fit. But we have built a system that is end-to-end encrypted, end-to-end verifiable, has air gapping, biometric screening, and
Hmm.
multi-factor authentication. So I've spent, $20 million of my own money to try to build something truly secure and safe. And I believe that it is by far the securest voting system ever.
All right, Brad Tusk, really great to get your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.